Hi, Shruti. Thanks for joining with me today, and I'm so excited. And I'm hope others also will be so excited to meet you. And the content, it's going to be really awesome, and looking forward it. Want Our people loves to hear about yourself from you. So please walk with you about yourself.
Okay, hi Frederick. Thank you for having me here. Even I am excited. Let's see how it goes. So, basically, what I do is I am a malware researcher at Quick Heal. So, I analyze samples. I try to identify what specific part of it is actually creating an infection in the device. So, based on that, we add detections. So my basic work is hunting for such malicious samples and adding detection. And apart from that, I'm also a Google developer expert on web technologies. So since I have had a VAPT background, so that helps me a lot here for bridging the gap between the developers and the security professionals. So these are the two main tasks that I actually do. Apart from that, I have been speaker and trainer at various conferences, and also like I have my YouTube channel, which is currently beginners friendly, where I focus on topic related to malware analysis. Currently, malware analysis is my focus, and I try to make it as simple as possible for the beginners so that they can understand how to get started with it.
Okay. So how do you feel when you do malware analysis? Because I see that today also in article, one of the article I just read it that after the chat GPT grows in last year, so the malware threats compared to the phishing comes with that it grows very poor. So what kind of threats you are dealing? I mean, what kind of everyday you are seeing the threats? So what kind of interesting, can you talk about some interesting malware which you overcome, and maybe you can help me with that information.
Yes, yeah, sure. So recently, so the trending malwares that I have observed are mostly information stealers or ransomware, and they are mostly targeted attacks. See, there are lots of viruses, trojans, worms. They are, you download while downloading some movies that we always recommend not to do, or through phishing links or something. But the main problem is with the targeted attack, where they target a specific section of the society or an institute, and they try to extort a lot of information from them, or they will try to encrypt everything, every file on your device, and take all your data, and then ask for ransom,
Ransom.
hence the
Yeah.
name ransomware.
Yeah.
Yeah, so information stealers are also there. Like this is something that I have seen very trending recently in the last year. This these kind of malware such as Agent Tesla or Redline Stealer, they have become very trending.
Okay.
So it's very easy for them to infect your device. You will not even understand. With ransomware, what happens that you identify that everything is encrypted and you're not able to do any work. With them, it is slightly difficult to identify. So currently, we are dealing with such kind of malicious samples, both non-PE and PE side, because they have not. Because right now there is a complete attack chain. It's not just like there's an executable which gets executed. So they have to, create a whole lot of step in the
So
beginning so that
basically, command and
executable.
execution.
Exactly, so that it can happen.
Okay. So thanks for sharing the information. So I can you tell me that one of the you say you just walked about the latest trending malwares and everything over there. So can you suggest something how companies or as an individual can prevent from such a things over there? So what is the basics mistakes or basic common things, or what are the ways of the hackers are delivering the malware? So one of the thing is email one. So do you see apart from that hackers are delivering their malwares in any other way, or what is your intake and what is your suggestions for the people who works in enterprise and who daily works on SOC, basic as a SOC analyst and those factors? So what is your recommendation for them, what to do and what not to do, how to handle the situations? So can you walk me with those steps? I think you have interesting guides and everything. So just walk me with the how the analysis has to start, how to detect, what to happens, and what keen interest you have to see, means key stings or whatever you have to see it over there. Maybe you can slightly introduction about the tools and everything you can. So over to you.
To discuss about very simpler things. We won't get into too much details. I'm again making it very beginner friendly. And we'll just discuss about few pointers before we get ahead with any malicious sample. So what happens, like what is a kill chain? What happens in the very beginning? So this is the image that I have taken from Wikipedia. So there are few phases of intrusion kill chain. So what happens over here is reconnaissance, where the malware actors or the authors or even threat actors in general are trying to identify their victims. Like they will research about them, identify, and then they will select the targets, like who they should be, infect their device with or infect with. Second would be weaponization, like pairing remote access malware with exploit into deliverable code. That is the initial stage that I was talking about. A lot of times there are phishing mails, they are having such kind of statements such as that you have not paid your bill or your card has expired and please check the attachment below, and you end up checking the attachment and that infects your device. So these are the very basic stages, basic things, and that happens in the initial stage only. Then comes the delivery where the transmission of weapon. Basically, what they mean by weapon at the initial stages, some non-P malicious samples. That they do not necessarily have to be non-P, but majority of the time they are. Okay, then they exploit it. After that they install it. So once they have exploited the device, they try to install a backdoor over there so that whenever they want they can connect to the victim's device, and then they can do their sort of action. Command and control is the main server, which is actually providing commands to the victim's machine through that backdoor so that they can perform other activities, and hence the actions are objective. So these are the entire phases of an attack chain, and this is very prevalent. So you will see or you'll hear a lot of attacks that recently happened, like to a specific company or an industry or entire healthcare sector, for example. So these are certain things what happens. So what happens in the very beginning is a lot of times, even if it is like you asked that, even if it is not an email attachment or a phishing link, what else could it be? It could be a lot of things. So while selection of targets, they identify what kind of servers they are using, what platforms do they use, every kind of details, that how they work, what is their main motto of working, what that industry talks about, and then based on that they identify the products they are using. And they also, a lot of times they already have some 0 days, they have already exploitation of such kind of products. So a lot of time they directly attack or find those vulnerable products and send a payload over there, and that is also another way through which they deliver their final payload. So that has also happened before, and that is one of the reason why it is very important for everybody, not just an enterprise business, but for each one of us to upgrade and update your device. And
I have one question. Sorry to interrupt, Shruti. So you said right. So basically, in my experience, I see that a lot of malware will be embedded along with the PDF and micro documents, and even during my penetration testings as well, I used to do it, and in my previous thread as well, when I do thread hunting, I used to see all those things. So how often you see such a means? Do you see the trending has been improved on that kind of a malware deliveries like PDFs and micro documents, or any other way hackers are embedding the malwares? And do you see any trend patterns or any new things?
See, CV exploitation is something that is very common, but specific to PDF or Office files, what has happened right now that they have changed a lot of things. Like with the newer version of Adobe, you cannot directly, the JavaScript URLs or JavaScript code will not get directly triggered. So they have also added such kind of features. So certain things are getting obsolete because sometimes you cannot avoid, like macros. With macros, you have certain functionality. So whenever you open a document and macros get triggered, now whenever if macro is used, you are asked that it has macros, the document has macros. Do you want to continue or not? So initially these things were not asked. Now things have also changed. Now their pattern have changed. The CV, I have seen a lot of malware delivery happens through CVEs, through 0 days. That is very common. That is also very trending. So the attacks are happening in whichever way possible. Nothing is 100% secure. This is something that I keep saying every time. Like if you want that, if you think that you have installed an antivirus or any anti malware tools, or and if you feel that you are completely secure, no, there are new malware, new variants coming up every day. Like every day I see a lot of, like, once it had happened at around 1,000, this must be very less, 1,000 different variants I observed of different malware, like for a day. There are 500 to 1,000 samples that I observed, and I was thinking that how to go ahead with that. Like these things happen, and they are all different. Some are information stealers, some are ransomware, some are viruses, some are just worms, some are old malware. Like they do not even want to infect your device, they would just act as a bot, or maybe they would just not let you do anything. Like I had come across a malware, I won't name it, but that malware did not infect your device, it did not steal your data. The only thing that it would do, that was specific to a specific kind of tool, so it won't let you work. That is the main thing, that was the only
So you
intention.
are taking me to the school days. So I have a Windows PC. Basically, that is a
Yes.
Windows 95. So the only way is CDs that those days are there. So when I put the CDs, it will infect and keep pop-ups will be keep coming on it. So I never allow me to do my work. And then yes, as you said, I remember I was using Kaspersky. That those days are very famous. So I was using still that is not stopped, and then I have to reimages. So you're taking me back to the school days. Thanks for it.
Yes, these things are still common. A lot of times you won't even identify if there is a malware that is running at the back end. So you have to be very careful of the processes that are running in your device. But for common people, common users, it is not always possible for them. So they should always keep updating and upgrading their devices. That's the thing that they can do, and be aware. Like do not click on link, or if you're willing to download something, see if the website is authentic. Just don't end up downloading from any kind of website.
Okay. So, have you, in your experience, have you seen anyway? Most of the companies have blocked the USB devices, and you know very well that there is a concept called HID devices, which is some juice jacking or even rubber duckies and those things.
Yes.
So, have you seen any kind of? I know it's happened. It's common in US. It will happen, keep happening in those patterns. Do you find the same patterns or anything in specifically in India or anywhere in your geological locations where you work with the clients or customers?
So these things happen, not these do not happen much with the enterprise, in the enterprise field, which I've observed, but with the common users, because they end up using, infected USB or some kind of device that they do not know of, or they end up downloading. So these things are available, and the users themselves end up downloading. Again, lack of awareness. Again, these things are these have become very less now. Like the frequency has reduced, but last to last year I had actually observed a malware which was getting delivered through USB, and there are such kind of malware still prevailing which delivered in these ways.
Because the problem is there nowadays, I have seen it in my offices as well, the previous offices or any enterprises I just worked on, right? So people have a habit of putting the phone on their charge on the laptop. So
Yes.
that is also that is why the juice jacket became a very famous. So it's look like a normal cable, but it's a HID devices and payload can be loaded. And if anyone ejecting he thinks that he's just charging the phone, but actually he just ejecting the payload.
So let's move ahead. So as we discussed about kill chain, let's understand how an attack happens. So it's a very simplified version of how attack is happening. So you have an initial stage, then there are middle stage loaders, and final stage. I have not taken this from anywhere. So this is something that I call them whenever I'm analyzing a malicious sample or an entire family. So the initial loader would be something like your phishing email. So they are just or a website or from where an actual malware is getting delivered. For example, it comes in the reconnaissance and weaponization part and the delivery, like how it is happening. Like I'm just linking it that way. It does not have to be specifically to all the first three phases only, but mostly related to this. So the initial stage loaders try to load another malware into your device. So that malware does not do much, but it tries to understand your device. How does it work? A lot of times it doesn't even do that. It directly gets executed or it directly downloads another payload. So sometimes what happens, the middle stage loaders would turn off all your firewall. It will turn off all the security based security scanners or anti malware devices in your machine, and then it will download or connect to the CNC and will download a final stage payload, which is the final payload. Like for example, a ransomware, which is a final executable, which will directly execute. A lot of times happen that the ransomware, for example, runs in the very beginning. I mean, after it is loaded, and then it connects to another to the CNC, and then provides all your data to this, keeps all your data into that CNC server. So these things may vary depending on the malware family, on the variant. Again, this is not just 3 stages. I have seen such malware families where there were 7 stages in between till the final payload, till it reaches the final payload.
So
Now I'll come.
MITRE attack frameworks.
Yes, kind of, but does not specifically. MITRE attack framework is always there. Like I'm not talking about that, but it is always there. What I'm trying to say is what it actually does. Like it would try different techniques. So in that specific malware family, what happened was I had seen few blogs related to that. Initially, the blog would say that it would load some kind of malicious file and it would connect to a URL, and it might be sending data, but they were not sure of how it was working. After analyzing a bit further, they realized that it has a lot of like first of all, the samples were packed. Second of all, they had so many anti-detection techniques that it, even after performing dynamic analysis, they were not able to identify what was happening over there. So it took complete disassembling of that specific code, and then they identified that they have 7 stages, where each stage, the final payload when comes, have been packed a lot of times. It's not just packed once or twice; they have been packed multiple times, and obviously the performance becomes slow. But if you are not aware of the file which is infecting your device, you won't be doing anything, right? So it will start infecting your device even after a few minutes, even if it is kind of slow because of having so much layers of anti-detection techniques.
So basically, it's using more memory and process and everything. So background, you will notify it.
Yes. So they have, so what happens in the, especially in the initial and middle stage loaders, they have those kinds of scripts. They use batch loaders, even if you're talking about executable files, Windows. So they'll have batch loaders or PowerShell scripts a lot of times, which have those kinds of commands that do not show it, do not pop up anything. Otherwise, the user might be aware that something is happening into its device. So they have all those kinds of commands to avoid any kind of detection or any kind of identification, basically, from
Okay, sounds
till the
good.
time final payload is getting executed.
So do you? So one question is, do you have any blog or any something like to know about the recent malwares, like what is there, how to know about it. So can you suggest something, websites, or like a something like a MITRE frameworks, and those are cyber kill chains, right? So do you have any specific frameworks for malware analysis or something else?
Framework as in I for my personal use I do not use, but for organizations I will not be able to say that. But for personally, I do not follow such any specific framework, but MITRE is one that I usually follow. If you want to, if you're talking about having malicious samples and identifying the recent trends or the trending malware, we have a lot of platforms over there: Virus Total, Malware Abuse. These two are the basic ones that I always follow. So you get a lot of variants of malware, and you can identify a lot of times. For example, with these two platforms, you'll also see some resources which are available where the analysis has been provided related to how analysis has been done, how the threat hunting has been done, and what all IOCs are over there. I'll come to IOCs later on, but these are certain platforms that I specifically use. I do not use, uh, very different kind of tool or framework. I keep it very simple because the entire process, the entire malware analysis process has been made very difficult by people. Like, they keep on saying that it's very difficult, but if you're able to identify the issue, and if you put just a little bit of focus and dedication, you'll be able to identify certain things. So even I keep it very simple for my understanding. Even whenever I present something, I try to keep it very simple for the audience's understanding as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good for me. So yeah.
Okay, so moving ahead, as I explained about initial stages, loaders, and final payload. So this is the very common one in any attack chain, but they can have multiple stages in between as well. Now, what happens in the analysis? So there are basic two kinds of analysis that we do: static and dynamic. So in the static analysis, we just identify which file type is it, any strings that are available, whether it is packed or not, what is the entry point, how does it look like, just some basic details, whichever we can get. A lot of times you can get a lot of details from just static analysis, and sometimes you do not get. If the malware is really very packed, it's not possible to get a lot of details except for the type of file it is. Dynamic basic analysis is simply you are running the malware, and then you're using some monitoring tools to identify its activity. Now, what happens in the advanced part with static analysis is you're using disassemblers or performing reverse engineering. So, static as a term suggests you're not running the malware. In the dynamic, you're running the malware. So, in static, when you're using disassembler or performing reverse engineering, you are simply identifying what the malware is doing through its assembly code. So the disassembler that you can use is IDA free one is something that I use. You can use IDA Pro if it's there. Gidra is one. For dynamic advanced, you can use debuggers. So what happens that each step that is happening whenever a malware is getting executed, you are able to set a breakpoint, or you can go through each step. Even unpacking of samples is something that you can do using dynamic analysis. And if you do not have any tool that is available, because the common malware packers, they are common and there are tools available for them, but for actually targeted attack or advanced malware attack that happens, they use such packing techniques which is not possible to unpack using any tool. So you have to use debuggers for that, and sometimes it's not even possible to unpack completely. So one thing that I want to make it clear, that unpacking a sample does not mean that you have clearly unpacked the sample and you have found out its original version, but you're able to identify some sort.
So basically, the hackers, I have seen this thing. So usually hackers, they will pack their packages so that it will be encrypted, so that it will not reveal the sting values. It will not review the exact
Yes.
connections and over things over there. So I have seen this one. And what are your opinion on Yara rules? So Yara rules also one of the best way to understand the family behaviors, and it's also like a kind of automations to if you have already have Yara rule has been created for this, you don't need to rework on this. Automatically it collect IOCs, it will review the patterns, behavior, families, and it gives over there. So what is your opinion on Yara, whether you will be using on statics or dynamic, or sometimes you will be using on both the ways? So how about that?
You can definitely use Yara rules. Yeah, this is something, and this is, I guess, open source, right?
Hmm.
And so you can also, the best thing about such open source things are that you can also provide you can give, you can contribute basically.
So
So you
just as
can
a
see a
normal
lot.
coding, I'll be just putting a one just small rough codings. It's just a
Yes,
four fonts. And if I from the previous families, I'll just put the IOCs like IP address, URLs,
yes.
and everything. So if I see the same behavior, same connections over there, and yes, end of the day, it will see that okay, I have matching connections over there. So yes, it's a, yes, a simple code, but it's a powerful job because I have made a lot of Yara rules in my careers because basically what we'll do is we'll create a Yara rule and we'll put it in the sim patterns so that it'll automatically in the SOAR automation things will be a Yara rule will be running and does, and parallelly we will be try to integrate with our EDR solutions, and so that it simplify the our task and everyday things will be get over.
Yeah,
I
no, no, you
just
can.
hijacked your things over.
No, no, no problem. Even I agree with you on the Yara rules because they are really very helpful. Like here, you are adding IOCs where you can actually identify such malicious activities. The problem, which could be like one thing, that why we are coming up with other kind of identification patterns now, because now the variants or the malware variants are becoming so different, and so even if they are a variant, for example, if I talk about, suppose WannaCry, a new variant comes up, even if it is called as a variant of WannaCry, it has some difference. So every time anything new comes up, you need to make sure that you're updating. So the IOCs have to be like that. Suppose if your IOC is related to IP or URL, that IP or URL will be inactive in a day or two. After a lot of time, after a lot of days, maybe it will get active. So we have to also identify a specific pattern. So this helps you into identifying what kind of IOCs you should be using, right? So this helps you not just writing a Yara tool. Yara rule will help you with with identifying any malicious samples through their patterns, but it will also help you as a researcher into identifying the IOCs and what else could be done. And if you observe that even if you're writing a lot of such kind of patterns or using Yara rules to identify a variant, you can always try to check if you're able to identify the other variants also or not, whether there is anything common between them. For example, the stop ransomware, they figured out a way to stop infection from that specific ransomware, but the next variant had some different kind of offerings to make, and it ended up that the previous solution did not work. It is not specific to Yara rules, but something else that I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
these things
that's what
happen.
industries keep updating their hash signatures and
Yes.
everything. Because yeah, I agree with you because even the hackers always are one step ahead. Okay, so we will keep the
Yes.
system ready. They will come with a different thing, and again we have to develop a one thing, and they will come with the new ideas. So they are like it's kind of a battle between a cybersecurity professional and a hacker.
Yes, one thing that I feel that you have to, like, even if you are a defensive side of person, you always have to think from an offensive side as well, because if suppose if I were a malware author or a hacker, if I have used a malware, that I've shared a malware in or delivered a malware somewhere, for example, in any platform, perform, I would immediately start working on its different variant, because I know once it comes into public, people will start adding detection to it. There'll be different ways, but I know people are not. We have not advanced with such technology yet to identify the next variant. Also, people are working on it. There is a possibility. There are things which can identify, but still, it is a very challenging task. So they start working on the next variant. So you will see that how frequently these variants come. A lot of time I've observed that even here, as I mentioned about the stages, for different kind of malware families, the middle stage or the initial stage loaders are the same. So there's a very high chances that they belong to a same attacking group, or maybe there is a malware as a service kind of thing that is happening. So these things are very common. So today we'll be performing some dynamic analysis. We'll understand an attack chain. We theoretically understood. In the practical scenario, I'll just give a brief example how it happens, but we'll perform dynamic analysis of an information stealer malware. We'll see how it happens. I'll be using just these 4 tools, and they should be enough for you for getting it. So very basic thing, you have to make sure you're analyzing in a sandbox environment in a VM, and you are not connected to your host machine, or if it would be the best if you have a separate device only for malware analysis, but it's not always feasible. So make sure that you are in a sandbox environment. Again, this is just for educational purpose, and I'm not sharing any code. I'm just showing the analysis. But for performing analysis, you have to make sure that you have turned off all the security scanners or defenders, firewall, everything into your device.
Doing in the sandbox environment, right?
So it's
So
not
it's not
recommended
Yes.
recommended
to
to
do the
do the
malware
malware
analysis on
analysis
your
on your
primary
primary
laptop.
laptop.
Exactly. And even if you're performing static analysis, like you're not doing any, you're not going to execute the code, but still, why do you have to take a risk?
Okay.
The virus won't understand, right? That I was not supposed to run here.
Okay. So you use VirtualBox, right? So and you just install the Windows machine because most of the trend are for Windows malware. So that's why you are having, because I have seen people using Remx and Flare VMs and those things. So but I see it's a very plain vanilla Microsoft image. So yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so Remnux is something that I use as well, but I use it for static analysis mostly. But if I want to perform Linux dynamic analysis, I would use Remnux. With Flare VM is something that like you have to set up the Flare VM, so it is again related to your Windows platform. So you have to set it up in your Windows, into your Windows device, I mean VM. So with Flare VM or with Remnux, everything is fine. You can definitely use, but as I said that I try to keep it as simple as possible. With Flare VM and Remnux, you have a lot of tools. So all the tools are available. They are already there. You do not have to go and install any tools separately. But I personally prefer to have set up a Windows machine and keep 4 to 5 tools as per my use, and based on that, I perform the analysis.
Agree with you because it will be overloaded with the tool, and as a beginner who doesn't know what tool need to be used, and certain tools will be sitting for there and consuming a resource of the things. So it's always a good practice. Set up a Windows plain vanilla flavor, whatever the tool you needed, just install it, keep installing, and it develop it. So that you will not. It's actually it's a useful, quite useful on it. Yeah, please.
Yes. So another thing that before performing the analysis, make sure that you take a snapshot of your device. So you click on OK, it creates a snapshot of the uninfected part. So once you infect this VM or the virtual machine of yours, you can always get back to the previous snapshot where it has not infected your device. So again, this is a good practice. You cannot keep on creating VMs and VMs. You can do that, but I think it would be better if you always have a
You have to start. It's always
yes.
yeah, take a snapshot of the clean state, and once you're done with the investigation, revert the snapshot to the clean states. It's a good practice, yes.
So this is just a simple way to show you an attack chain. I am not going to share the code, and this attack chain really does not do much. It is just a code for a very cute ransomware. So, and this ransomware just infects or encrypts only this folder. So I have programmed it that way only, so that it just infects one specific folder, and I do not infect my entire machine over here. So again, this is like a phishing page that you can see. I have set it up in my local machine only. You can set it up somewhere else, or just for example, you can imagine that you want to download notepad.exe from somewhere, and you, for some reason, the authentic domain is not visible, or it's down for a while, for example, and you end up downloading from other source. So of course this is not an authentic source. So what happens, this is the first stage, like it looks like a first stage where the malware will get delivered. I download it, asks me that I want to run. Now, as a user, I really know that this is a malicious, as a user, I know that this is notepad.exe. So I would ignore everything that is written over here, that it looks like a downloader.exe. I have actually written it ps.downloader, so that I can show you how victims are unaware that what they are downloading. A lot of times it is not even notepad.exe. You'll see that it is notepad with double D or double A, and people ignore these things. They're not even careful of what they're downloading and from where they're downloading.
So basically, they're in a rush and they doesn't know what.
Yes. They know that nothing will happen. We will have to wait. And you see that it has encrypted this folder. So, and this is the encrypt.text, and .shu is my extension as I created it. So
The extension can be anything. Just make it as
exactly, yeah. So mostly the ransomware is what happened, that they keep the extension as their name, like WannaCry, Mallocs. So I also wanted to keep it that way.
Okay.
So this is a very simple and straightforward attack. So in between, what happened, what we are seeing that I executed notepad.exe, but it was something else, and directly something happened. So in between, there is another script which actually is scanning the device or maybe understanding what is happening. And then it went to that folder, encrypted, and it just gave this
encrypted everything.
Yeah, your data, or it is just telling you that to get back your data, you need to send 100 bitcoins to the specific address. So they have this address also. A lot of times they change your entire background. So they do a lot of things to gain your attention.
Okay. So one more thing is, here is my question comes in. For example, if I renaming this file, if there is a text file or something else, if I rename it, will it be works as a normal, because just the extension has been changed, right? So it will work. Or do you, what it means, if I have a create a restore point on my computers, if I'm just restoring it or restoring the backups, will it be helpful during the ransomware?
Restoring the backup would help, but renaming the file names will not help.
Okay.
Because they have encrypted. So what they do is, if you minutely observe a ransomware attack, the initial phase a lot of times starts with they are scanning the files into your device, and then they're taking they're not taking a backup, I won't call it a backup, but they are taking all your files into their server. So they are communicating with a CNC, and they are sending all your files over there, and then they are encrypting and renaming it.
So yes, so ransomware it's a burning fuel for the hackers, because they generate, not only generating the money, they generating the data as well, as much as possible, and they sell it in the dark web or publics. So
if you do dark web research, and if we ever happen to discuss on this later on in the future, so this dark web thing, you will see so many companies, their data are available, and you can at least see which companies or which organizations data has been leaked. You may not be able to download the data, because for that also they charge some amount, or maybe you need to log in. But otherwise, you can see the data, like which companies have been hacked, and like how they have been hacked, and there are the conversation that is happening in the comments,
Like normal chats kind of things.
yes, for how much are we going to get this data? Since when this data is available? Like till like all those kinds of things, and everything is all present over there.
Oh, there.
Oh my god, with the things that they sell, like I was so surprised to see that passports and everything are available. I'm not mentioning any other thing, but
Yeah.
I was very new to all those things at that point of time, so I was very excited, and after that I was surprised. Like, okay, these things are actually happening. So
Probably.
okay, so here we just observed a very cute and simple attack chain. Right now, we'll start with a proper dynamic analysis.
Mhm.
It is again a basic one, again a trending information stealer.
So this is
I hope
basically suitable for the beginner guide kind of thing. So that any SOC
exactly.
analyst who works have 2.5 years experience or who wants to become a move from SOC analyst to threat hunting. So this is will be quite useful for them because they are
Exactly.
dynamic. Yeah.
Exactly. You do not see for the advanced malware part, you have to learn, like even for static and dynamic, you need to learn assembly. You need to understand that time assembly language is your go-to language. Like without that, you won't be able to get through the
Hmm.
advanced part. But at least for the basic part, as a beginner, you can always do. But you have to understand like which tools you are using, how to identify, like how to check those tools. With experience, also you gain a lot of things like what is happening, how is it happening, and everything. Okay. Again, this is a trending malware. So, if it is supposed to make any connection to the CNC, so it was making till yesterday, and if it does not, so maybe they have taken it down. Okay, so I'm just just a small disclaimer. So the tools that we will be using is Wireshark, which is already open. Process Hacker will keep observing Process Hacker a lot. So you can see it tells you what all processes are running. Just to keep it simple, we'll just close the rest of the ones because we want to just see the recent process that we are going to run. Again, you have to make sure that process monitor is also open. Also, we have another tool which is RegShot. So
Hmm.
I'll give a small introduction about these tools, what they are doing.
Hmm.
So Wireshark will actually deal with the networking activities
Hmm.
that are happening. So if it is making any connection with any network with the CNC server, we will be able to see that. Again, Wireshark is a passive monitoring tool, so if anything such that is like that is happening, we will not be able to understand. Basically, the malware will not understand unless it has some anti-detection techniques or identification of Wireshark kind of techniques. But I guess it does not have as of now. Process monitor is something which will monitor all your processes that are currently running and whatever anything that is happening. For example, registry changes, any path that you have used, any file that has been opened, overwritten, modified, all those information. Even network based information you can get, but actually the packets or how an entire transaction or communication is happening between the malware in my device to the CNC is something that you can see from the Wireshark. Process Hacker is a very advanced kind of tool which is similar to Task Manager, but in an advanced version. That is something that I say because it will tell you that which process is running, how come or which kind of thing initiated, which kind of command or another process say has injected or initiated this process. So all those kinds of information. RegShot will give you a difference between the uninfected version, the previous version previous to running the malware, and the difference between the time after running the malware. So I'll just run regshot. Let it take first shot. So the best part with the information stealers are that you can at least remove them, at least the basic ones. I'm not talking the advanced ones which stay as a backdoor into your device, but you can always remove. You can always remove them, which is not possible with a lot of other malware process hacker is running. And this is the malware that we are going to run. So once I start with running this malware, we need to observe the process hacker, like how a new process comes here. So you can see wscript.exe. So wscript.exe is used for running. It is used for running VBS scripts mostly, Visual Basic scripts. So here you can see a lot of things I have. So see here Wireshark also we are able to see some communication is happening. Here we can filter certain things. So you can always go to process name, and from here you can select the process. So here you can see the rest of the things.
Okay.
So here initially what we observed was wscript.exe. So what it was doing is it actually helps you with executing VB script. So here this is an executable, but we see that there is a VB script also running. So there is certain things that are in between. So if we happen to run it again, for example, yes. So with W script, when you select this, so you'll be able to see the entire thing that is happening, what is running, app data roaming, MS hyperdriver. So there is something else also which is getting executed. So there is a batch file which is getting executed and which is resulting into all these connections and
So
activities.
here I just need to say to the audience that, so guys, if you are if you are a beginner and you're doing something malware analysis, please handle the malware with a care, because you doesn't know what kind of malware you are dealing it. It might, if you're doing very not in the way like without an isolation mission or just like that you're doing it, there is a chances that malware can spread in your personal laptops or your primary laptops, and it got infectors, and it might, if suppose you are using an office network, this kind of things, it might infect your office network as well. So please handle the malware with the care, don't take it light. And if before doing certain things, maybe you can practice as a separately from the node networks or something else, then go ahead, because it's very very important, even because people are, when they do initial thing, they will start spreading the malwares by themselves. So disclaimer I'm just putting on it. So handle the malware with a care, and please do all utilize these tools in a very proper manner, and keep the lab environment, specifically I would request to keep a lab environment and test it, something like small things, and see everything looks good, then go with your regular routine malware analysis over there.
Yeah. So just few things that we will just see. Like here we have Wireshark, where we are seeing a communication is happening. So most probably it is stealing all my data. How we'll understand? Here you can see that it is trying to make a connection, or maybe it is trying to download. There's some PHP file. There is a lot of things that is happening over here. Since it is a post request, so maybe some data is being sent. And again, since this is Wireshark and it does not act as a proxy or something, so if it is encrypted, you won't be able to see the data. But you can always identify if there is some kind of data transmission that is happening.
Okay. So here's my question. So what are the parameters you have to check it in the Wireshark? So basically in the beginner angle. So these are the things I have to see. Basically, as you said earlier, IOCs are very indicator of compromise. Right? So those IP address I need to collect. So how you will do collect the IOCs in Wireshark?
Yes. So coming to that IOC part, so here what will be my IOCs? So the term IOC, indicators of compromise, is something which tells you the term as the term suggests. How am I able to identify that my device is infected or my device has been compromised? What are the indications? How am I understanding? So as I was using Wireshark, so I see that it is making a connection. It suddenly started making a connection to an IP. So this IP can be an indicator of compromise. So this is one example. So if I'm using Wireshark, I can see here I saw an IP. I can simply use IP.addr
So basically, I can filter with this IP address,
Yes, you
and I can
use
quickly do a comparison with the virus total and see if that is a malicious IPs
Yes,
or those
you
things as well.
can. And if you are a malware researcher, you can always wait to see that what else it downloads, and then you can analyze those files as well. Here, it does not download anything. It directly, just shares my details to that, sends my details to the
So it's basically
CNC
it's sending
server.
the data to the hacker server.
Yes. So with Wireshark, as you mentioned, that we can always use filter. There are other filters also, but as a beginner, you can start with ip.addr. See, you can see HTTP request. You can always look for HTTP requests from here. You can filter out the protocol that you want to see. So here I can right click, I can follow, I can go to the HTTP stream to understand what is happening over here. So since this, so So as a beginner, you can see that what requests are being made, to which specific domain is being made, and how is the data sent, how the data transfer is happening. Okay, these are certain things that you can check. Again, it's very important for you to be, well versed with the networking basics. In IT, networking is something that you would require, not just security, but even in the entire IT
Yeah.
field. This is something that I feel
I
that at
understood.
least,
So we at least you don't know how two computers talks. What is the devices in between then?
exactly.
How the packets are communicates, and yes, I really understand. At least they should have a fundamental of OSI layer, TCP IPs.
Yes, people are not even aware that which of the two layers actually is in practice. We always study about OSI layer, whereas the other layer is actually in practice. And how is the what is the comparison
Mm.
between these two layers, and how come there are 4 layers in TCP/IP and 7 layers in OSI, and how they have merged uh, those
The
different
communications
layers.
happens. Yes, yes.
Yes,
I
how
agree
each
with you.
packet looks like. You don't have to know the entire header or something, but you should be aware. Like, you should know how to read all those things, what is happening. So this will be very helpful in the long run. You can check all those data, how is everything happening, what protocol is being used. What else can we see? We can see, if it's possible, we can see an entire conversation. From here, you can see that how the entire conversation has happened between the two
Source and destination.
IPs. Basically, the IP, this one is my IP, and this one is that CNC's IP. So you can see how much data has been transferred from my system to the CNC. So this is one way how you can identify. So this is Wireshark. Okay. Now if we come to process hacker, we already saw that
Yes,
how
I
process
see
hacker.
that process execute and multiple tree was. I see that all things over
Yes,
there.
yes. A lot of times, if it is still running, I think it is not running anymore, or maybe it is running in the backend. We are not
So
sure.
after data send it, it is just terminating the process.
Yes, a lot of times they do not even terminate. So you can terminate from here. For example, right click and you can terminate from here as well. So now if we try to look at process monitor, we can see, I'm just trying to. So with process monitor, what you can see, so I've already filtered out. So this was the malicious file, malware.exe. So just let's see, it is creating a file. It is opening a registry open key. So maybe it is trying to use. You can directly go to properties and you can see what else it is doing. So if you're completely new, you can look for what does this registry do? What is it trying to do? A lot of times they use as an option to create persistence. So what are they actually using? Maybe it is not trying to create persistence, or maybe it is. So it has used a lot of registry query values. From here, you can actually analyze. See, registry set info key. So most probably it is trying to get more and more info, a lot of information related to this device. This is something that I can feel. So from here, you can actually identify. Also, From process monitor, process hacker, suppose if it is still running, and with process monitor also, as I showed you, you can always right click and go to properties to see how is it running. So if it is a PowerShell script, you can actually see the entire command. If it is an obfuscated PowerShell or batch script, you can actually be able to see the deobfuscated one that is running, because for running you have to deobfuscate that file, right? If it is a PowerShell or batch file, you have to obfuscated PowerShell or batch file. You need to deobfuscate it. So a lot of times when the deobfuscated part is running, you will be able to see that with what is that deobfuscated part, what is actually it is doing. If you want to run a malicious crypto miner, you can always go to this properties and you can see the entire code that it is running.
Okay.
So from there, these things are possible. Here it is simply, stealing all the information and sharing and creating some files and registries. So we are not able to see. It is not using much of PowerShell or batch. So we are not able to see all those things.
Okay. So
Okay, so this was with ProcMol, and we can directly go to the second shot and we'll directly compare. So meanwhile this is happening, I will talk about the basics IOC cycle that I wanted to show. So the second shot is done and we are comparing right now. It may take some time. So the reg shot comparison is done. So we just have a quick look at what changes have happened. So you can see that 30 keys added. We also saw in process monitor that there are a lot of changes that were happening over there. I wanted to talk about, yeah, the registry keys. So here also some changes have been made. You can always research for these, like you can always ask, as Frederick mentioned, you can ask chat gpt, you can always google, like what is this registry, like what is it doing, why is it important, what happens when we make any changes to it. These are certain questions that you need to ask yourself while analyzing, because the monitoring tools will provide you all the details.
I think
Now
we can
you
use
have to,
Notepad plus XS also, right? So that we can quickly compare both the documents. It's a word, right? So we can use
yes.
Notepad plus plus and we
Yeah,
can
I
do.
use Sublime for the
Okay.
comparison. So
Okay.
I can at that way also you can do this.
Okay.
It will always help you in identifying.
Okay.
So here you can see a lot of values have been modified, values added. So you can always look for those things. So what values have been added, you can check for those values as well. I'm just quickly scrolling through it to show you
Understood.
what all changes that have happened. So there have been total 148 changes, and a lot of the changes have happened related to registry. So what I can see and what I can conclude is, since from Wireshark we already saw that it was trying to share some details, not even share the stealing details. Even from regshot, if you go through the registry information, you'll see that it is gaining information related to your device, like current version, software, shell, everything. Who is the, like for example, the accounts, OneDrive, everything, whichever account you are linked with, whichever accounts you use, whichever processes that are present, the folders, every details that it is trying to look for, and it is trying to share that information. It is a very common example. It's a very common type of information stealer, but it is trending right now. So I think that would be it for the basic of dynamic analysis. So if you have any questions, Frederick, please share.
So it's a wonderful session. I would say that means I've learned a lot, and it's loud to hear from the expert talking about how to do a malware analysis. And yes, usually even during my thing, I think okay, Remex will help me a lot, and I have to use a Flare VM. But you have showed a simple way we can do it in this as well. So it's a quite interesting session, and I was pretty impressed with the ransomwares, and you gave me a plenty of lot of information about it. So it's a quite interesting session for it. So I'm glad to have you here, and thanks for. I really appreciate your time because I know you are a busy schedule. So in this schedule, you are just available and spend some time on this one. It's really great. I'm glad if any question comes from the comment sessions, I'll be passing you to, and probably we
Sure,
can, if
sure.
suppose the questions are more, probably we can make a ask live sessions and according to your availabilities, and we will conduct a live sessions and see what are the questions are coming, and we can able to answer it over there. So once again, I'm so thanks, Rudy, for your time, and
Thank you for
thank you for
having
joining
me.
it.
We'll definitely connect again and we'll have some more of the sessions related to malware and hunting and everything.
See you soon with another
Yeah, sure.
interesting
Thank
video.
you so much. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.